Hello again, everyone. My name is Massimo Ferrari, and I'm the second, hopefully the last Italian that you will have for the day. And I promise this is just a coincidence. It's not that we are trying to take over the company or anything like that. What we are going to do in the next 30-ish kind of minutes is I would like to introduce the newest member of the Ansible family that is called Ansible Security Automation. And we'll go through, I would say, probably the current situation of enterprise IT security, the future, the probable future of enterprise IT security, and the goals that we have for this new baby that we are presenting today. And let's see if I get the... No. Yes. So let's start with a slide that you already saw in a slightly different format during Alessandro's presentation. Those are all security domains. Is a subset of all the security domains that are available on the market. But I would argue that those are probably the most important, or at least those are the ones where each and every CISO, CISOs, and security groups in large enterprises have to buy technology in. And for each one of those wonderful groups, you have literally thousands of vendors and thousands of products. To give you an idea, oh, I saw it. Is something that I'm missing? Oh, okay, it worked. It took like just 5 minutes, it's okay. So to give you an idea, this is a snapshot of last year's situation of the enterprise security space. And I'm sure that most of you already saw this slide many times because everybody is kind of using it for the dramatic effect of all those logos and names, and is made by a company that is called Momentum. And yes, you see some names that are repeated here and there, but I think that the message is quite clear. The situation is kind of untenable. You have too many vendors, you have too many products. It's just too complicated to cope with all those different products that you are supposed to buy to defend your environment. And I started my career in security, it was kind of 20 years ago. And at the time, the situation wasn't really like that. We have a number of security challenges, yes. And we have a number of solutions that we could apply to those security challenges to try to patch and solve a set of problems that we have. And what happened in 20 years is that we added virtual machines to the party, and then eventually containers, and then at some point we added functions or serverless computing. So what is happening is that those problems that we had 20 years ago are kind of still there, but we have a much, much higher complexity. Well, first time. And the situation is showing no sign of deceleration. So every single year, you have a new fantastic set of startups that are coming into the market, trying to solve all the problems in the world, like all the startups try to do the year before, and the year before, and the year before, and so on. But my point is that, yes, some of those startups are trying to do new things or answering new questions. For example, the Sneak company over there on the bottom right, they are trying to secure serverless computing environments based on functions. But all the others are trying to solve the exact same problem that I had 20 years ago. And what we all know is that those startups exist just because there is venture capital money. And in fact, if you look at 2018 alone, we have an increase of 72% of venture capital's investment into security. And if you look at the 5 years kind of time span, all the investment have been increasing over time. If you look at the blue bars over there, have been increasing. And the acquisitions or the exits, if you look at them from the startup perspective, which is the orange line, have been increasing over time. Now, another thing that we know is that venture capitals invest money where there is a market opportunity. And in fact, Gartner reports that we are approaching 100 billion spending in security from enterprise customers. And all of that kind of sounds great. I mean, there is a lot more money spent. Customers are spending money. Venture capitals are investing money. There are a lot more companies on the market, meaning that probably we have kind of solved most of those problems, right? We are moving to the next step. We solved most of the things. Well, it's not really true. Pretty much all security groups report right now that they are struggling to cope with all the attacks, with all the security attacks they are receiving nowadays. And just to put that 5% there in context, if you have any familiarity with security teams, you know that they tend not to turn on all the possible alerts or events that they can receive from the endpoints for different reasons. For example, because they don't want to overload the software or the hardware at the end. If you turn on, everything tends to become fairly hot. And on the other hand, they don't have the manpower to go through all those possible information that they get from the devices. So they focus on that 5%. And what I would think at this point is that at least for that 5%, they are becoming fantastic. They are faster. They are great at just identifying the problem and solving the problem. Again, not really the case. So most security teams are reporting that not only the time to identify an issue is increasing, but also that the impact of one of those security attacks when it lands into the infrastructure is becoming larger and larger. So the situation is fairly horrible. And why are we in this terrible situation? Why are those security teams struggling to be more efficient to respond to those attacks? Well, there are a number of things. People are complaining about different things, but I'm sure that you've heard multiple times the same stories. There's a shortage of skilled people on the market. We virtually have not nearly enough security experts on the market. We can't really respond to those attacks or analyze all those events because we don't have enough people. So I know that it's controversial, but my personal opinion is that this is not the kind of problem that you can solve throwing more people at it. Luckily enough for me, at least, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one thinking about that. There are other people in the security space that are thinking that the right way to go to be more efficient, more effective, is to use technologies like automation and machine learning, artificial intelligence that we have been talking about for the entire day. And in fact, and I know that you saw this slide during the keynote, and in fact, it's kind of the only way that you have. Why is that? As Alessandro said this morning, this one is an Amazon warehouse. And the orange little thingy underneath the shelves are the Kiva robots. Kiva robots are kind of the automation tool, let's call them like that, that Amazon uses to cope with the scale of those huge warehouses. And managing this scale means that they can deliver services like Prime delivery in one day, pretty much all over the world, or 2 hours, 1 hour, 30 minutes delivery with Prime Now, depending on where you live. And if we use this as an example, and you think about your hybrid infrastructure as an Amazon warehouse, where your infrastructure is growing because you are moving your application from virtual machines to containers and then eventually to functions, or probably to be more realistic, you are adding more and more applications because you have some application on virtual machines, some on containers, and some on functions. And at that point, the scale of this infrastructure that is supporting all this diversity becomes simply too big to be managed by a human operator. So you have a first issue that you have to deal with, which is scale. And automation and AI both help on this problem. The second point is that, and this is another thing that you saw during Alessandro's presentation, is not just a matter of sheer scale of the infrastructure. It's also a matter of complexity. So I'll give you an example that is speaking for me. Alessandro mentioned an AWS meetup that we saw in London a couple of months ago. And this very famous, very big game design company was showing all the journey of this application that moved from the traditional three-tier kind of application to this architecture that you see right here. This was the very first implementation based on containers of the same game. And At this point, you see there are 9 components there. Or if you look at them from a security perspective, let's say that they are 9 ingress points. So what they did was refactoring this wonderful application with 9 ingress points to this thing here, which is moving from 9 to 135. And clearly, their main concern was security. And yes, I know those are atomic, microscopic functions. They are just doing one single thing, I know that. But still, 135, 9, I mean, it's kind of complicated. So you have a problem of complexity. Your applications are becoming more and more complex per se, because you want to leverage all the new functionalities that those new architectures are giving you. Could be containers, could be functions, could be public cloud. So you want to use those functionalities, but you also have to defend those applications. And so far, we have been talking about the horrible, sad situation of enterprise IT security in the current state. But there are 2 emerging trends on the market. The first one is the entire agile, DevOps, infrastructure as code kind of practices that are taking place into the market. And if you think about that, the entire philosophy of failing fast, fixing fast, doesn't really fit into the slow, manual, curated process of security remediation, the identification, investigation, and remediation that security teams are currently using into large enterprises. So what happens when Gartner asks during one of their major events to an audience that was made virtually only by IT ops and DevOps, as you can see from the numbers, security is nearly not even there. When they ask, okay, what do you think about security? The simple answer is that, yes, they are slowing us down. So the perception that they have is that security is not moving at the same pace, is not evolving in the same direction, is not doing the same things that other pieces of IT are doing at the moment. The second trend is that, yes, you can certainly use automation and you can use artificial intelligence to defend your environments, but it's kind of very likely that we will see artificial intelligence applied to malicious attacks way before we start defending our environments. And what happens is that on top of the problems of complexity and scale that you already have, you will add a third component that Alessandro was talking about, which is speed. What happens is that if you apply artificial intelligence to malicious attack, you can reach a velocity of those attacks that is unmanageable by security, human security operators. One human security operator, 200 security operators, doesn't matter. You can do that. You can't really do that. And I don't pretend you to read, also because it's very small, to read this entire quote, but this one comes from a wonderful paper, is 100 pages paper, has been authored by a number of AI research firms and university. There's a bunch of people that you can read over there. But my point is that I strongly encourage you to read, download and read it. But the point is that out of 100 pages, there are 30 pages that are dedicated to on how to use artificial intelligence on attacks, from the most trivial to the most sophisticated. So it's a thing that is coming. Or maybe I'm just over-pessimistic. But what happened in 2017 is that a major security firm asked to the Black Hat audience. Black Hat is, I would argue, probably the most famous security conference in the world. We're talking about more than 20,000 people participating, former hackers, current hackers, security experts, whatever. So what they did was asking at the audience, do you think that you are going to see artificial intelligence applied to malicious attacks in the next year? And as you can see, more than 50% of the people in the room said yes. And we are talking about security experts here. In fact, 1 year later, same conference, IBM research proved that you can actually apply artificial intelligence on an attack. And they showed the result on stage. So this is coming, which is wonderful. I mean, it's not wonderful. It's wonderful for my presentation, not in general. So why we are in such a horrible situation in the security space? like many things in life, there is not a single reason for that. There are multiple reasons or concurring all together to get to this point. But if you ask me, what do you think is the underlying cause of this, I would say, lack of efficiency in the security response? I would probably argue that there is a complete lack of integration between all those technologies. So if you remember the first slide that we saw, the one with all the different security domains, you can think about them as silos. Those are silos that are not meant to talk together. They are not talking together at all. And the reason for that, again, multiple reasons. We kind of failed to come up with a standard that was adopted widely enough or quickly enough. So we didn't come up with a standard that was universally accepted by everyone. Probably because most of the proponents are security vendors or security people. They tend to have their own agenda. They want in some way control the ecosystem. They want to, for technical reasons sometimes, political reasons some other times. But the point is that every time one of them recommends a certain standard, it's not really said that other vendors or competitors or customers just jump on board and embrace everything straight away. It's not really the case. And if that happens, if there is an actual integration, is usually, you can see that on the market, usually between two companies, bunch of products, usually driven by a marketing partnership. So is not the real thing, right? And the situation is so bad that we are replacing all the standards that I showed you in the previous slide with a completely new set of standards. Because obviously, once you understand that people are bad with standards, they are slow in adopting standards, they are slow in trusting standards, the clear solution is that let's throw more standard into the market. So what I would ask myself is, what are the possibilities to end up with a universally adopted integration standard in this lifetime? Probably not many. Let me give you an example, a metaphor, to explain how bad the situation actually is. Let's say that we are trying to secure a physical building. So we hire security guards, and we install CCTV cameras, and we buy some guard dogs, because we like those kind of things. And what you do, you decide that the security guards are not allowed to look at the CCTV cameras, and you lock the dogs into the basement where they can't go anywhere. So it's not exactly the optimal situation. But what we think is that we can solve most of those problems through automation. Automation could really be the key to solve most of these problems. Clearly, in this case, automation needs to have a number of characteristics, needs to be simple, and needs to be widely adopted, etc. But we truly believe, as Red Hat, that this is the way to go. And again, we are not the only ones. There is an entire new category of vendors on the market that Gartner decided to call SOAR, Security Orchestration and Automated Response. Forrester calls them SAO, Security Automation and Orchestration, whatever. Is an entire new group of vendors that all came together to the same conclusion that orchestrating and automating all those technologies is the right way to go to respond to this new level of attacks that we are seeing. And yes, it's a very small group, but some of them gained enough market traction to attract bigger players. For example, Hexadite has been acquired 2 years ago, I think, from Microsoft. Phantom has been acquired last year, I think, from Splunk. But the point is that, yes, there is interest in the market, but what is even more interesting is the reaction from the actual customers, from the public. So, oh, this is very small. So Anton Chuvakin here is the guy in Gartner who invented the term SOAR. And during a webinar, after he explained what the SOAR thingy was all about, what was the purpose, what it was supposed to do, etc., he asked the audience of the webinar, so a subset of Gartner's customer base, we are talking about enterprise customer, he asked, okay, what do you think about this family of products? Is it of any interest for you? Do you like to buy some? And again, more than 50% answered, yes, we definitely would like to have a wonderful product or an open source solution for that. And it's not only Gartner. This is a research that KPMG did on Oracle's customer base. And if you look at the first two bars, over there, the vast majority of their customers already committed to a security automation solution, or they're planning to commit to a security automation solution. So there is truly interest. Customers, end users are truly excited about that. What they are not really excited about that is the actual implementation, how they work at the time. So first and foremost, we are talking about emerging technologies, so we should excuse, something to emerging technologies. Mainly, at the moment, they have two problems. The first one is that they tend to be a bit complex, especially if you are a large shop and you need a certain degree of customization in your solution is kind of always the case, right? So if you need customization, or if you need to do something that is not pre-baked into the platform, you need to have people working for you that are both security experts and Python coders. So if you know security people, it's not the kind of overlap that you find very often on the market. And the other thing that customers are complaining about is that those platforms don't really live up to expectation. Basically, they break down fairly easily, the last mile, the integration part. But again, we're talking about emerging technology, so it's kind of okay. What we think is that, again, automation could solve both those problems. Clearly, if you choose an automation framework to try to solve those problems, it needs to be unbiased, so able to contribute and solve the problem and be contributed by the community without perturbing this very delicate ecosystem that is security. And it needs to be extremely simple, simple to write those scripts, simple to maintain, simple to document, or with no need of documentation at all. And it needs to be modular, because we are supporting a gazillion of different technologies here. And it kind of happens that we have this technology, and it's called Ansible. So you already know all about the fact that GitHub came up with the fact that we are the 7th most contributed project out of 96 million, which is remarkable per se. What still surprises me is that we actually have more contributors than Kubernetes, and Kubernetes is all over the place, which is amazing. And so we are in a unique position to offer a security automation solution, or at least the underlying base for a security automation solution. And in fact, I'm here today to introduce you to this new baby, who is called Ansible Security Automation, the new effort that we put together for the security space. And what is that? Well, it's nothing magic at the moment. It's a curated collection of modules, of roles, and of playbooks that are specifically designed and written to stitch together, to connect, to integrate all those technologies that we see in across all those slides, and that are not meant to talk to each other. What is unique, though, is the fact that we are developing this initiative in a slightly different way. What we are doing is we are following a number of use cases that we believe are relevant, important, significant for most of our enterprise customers. For example, we are addressing the problem of security triage. When something happens in your infrastructure, you don't really know what is going on, and you need to collect more information from different devices that are not necessarily sending you the information. We are doing that, and we are serving threat hunting use cases. Threat hunting is more of a recurrent kind of process that you have to analyze all the information that you get from your security devices and try to spot a security event while it's happening. So we are facilitating that. And we go all the way down to the holy grail of security, which is the end-to-end incident response, all the way down to the remediation. So like the ability to identify an attack, an IP address that is attacking you, and going all the way down to blacklisting it, for example. And who is it for? Who do we think should or could be interested in this kind of initiative? Well, for sure, end-user organizations. So we are talking about security operating centers. We are talking about security teams. We definitely are developing the product for them and with them, because at the end of the day, it's all about community and collaboration. But we also have another ideal partner in all of that, which are the MSSPs, so the Managed Security Service Providers. And if you're not familiar, I'm talking about that class, family, group of vendors that are dealing every single day with complexity and scale, just because they are managing multiple, from the security standpoint, multiple infrastructures for their many customers. And we believe that they could truly use automation and get benefits from automation. Last but not least, we definitely want to work for and with security ISVs. So clearly we will have a lot of partners. We already have a lot of partners in the security space. But the point is that I'm including here the SOAR guys that we have just saw. That's because we don't want to compete against any of them. It's not our business. We are automation experts. We are not security experts. We don't want to be in the security space. What we want to do is to give them a tool, a framework, a language. We have been talking the whole day about Ansible, so it's a lot of things. We want to provide them a tool which is simple to use, is widely adopted because it's already in a lot of other areas of IT, and is easy to maintain. And this tool could really help them to leverage what is truly their expertise, which is the security orchestration part, and leaving us to deal with all the plumbing and all the connections. So coming back to our very first slide, if you think that those are all the most prominent or most common security domains here, we are now, as Alessandro said, we are now in technical preview. We are moving very fast, but we are still in technical preview. Technical preview means that for now, we are targeting 3 of those security domains: enterprise firewalls, intrusion detection and prevention systems, and security information and event management, CM, which is a very odd word to pronounce. And inside each one of those security domains, we are actually working with one partner for each one, because again, it's a technical preview. And for enterprise firewalls, we are working with Checkpoint that has a very large footprint within our customers, so that made sense. For intrusion detection systems, we are working with the open source version of Snort. That was the easiest way to go, is open source. We are open source. And it's widely deployed, so I'm sure that plenty of you have Snort installed, but it's also kind of a de facto standard for intrusion detection rules. So even if you have a commercial intrusion detection prevention system, it's very likely that the rules are written in Snort standard. And for the CM side of the house, we are working with Splunk, and specifically with Splunk Enterprise Security, which is their CM module. Obviously, the ambition here is to expand to all of those domains and integrate all the platforms, all the relevant platforms at least, within those domains through automation. And if you think about that, this is the slide that Alessandro showed. If you think about that, once you have connected all those systems all together, and you have a sort of a homogeneous kind of engine that is in between them, you can truly start doing something that is even more interesting. We could do many things here. One of the things that we could do is implementing artificial intelligence on top of all of that, which means a number of things. But just thinking out loud here, what you could do is ingesting all the different remediations that you see, all the processes that you see, and start answering questions like, let's say that for every single attack, you have like 5, 6 ways to remediate it. Which one is the more efficient? Or even what efficiency in terms of remediation is? Is it the fastest? Is the one that touches the less number of points? We could start contributing with knowledge to the people participating to this project. So there is plenty of stuff that we can do. But clearly, before getting there, there are a number of things that need to happen. Right now, probably most of those things are from the vendor side of the house. So security vendors need to embrace this idea, needs to come over and work with us or with other automation vendors, whatever, to enable these things. But there are also a number of things that can be done from your side. So customers and community members, there are plenty of things that can be done. Now, I don't want to go through all the recommendations that you have here. You can look at them later on if you want. But if there is one thing, and one thing only, that you can bring home from this presentation is this. Just reconsider automation from a tactical tool, a tool that you can use now to solve a problem that you have at this moment, and that could be tweaking a configuration for, I don't know, certification or other kind of obligations that you have for compliance reasons. And think about automation as a strategic tool, a tool that now you can use to secure your environment, to protect your environment in a way that has never been available before. And before I close, like kind of at the end, I would like to give you a very final example. So I'm sure that probably most of you already read this article. This has been published by The Verge in July last year, or June, I don't remember. But basically, the point is that there is this company in Japan. They are into the physical security market, right? And what they did is applying automation and artificial intelligence to the physical security world, which is just amazing. What they do, basically, they have cameras installed in shop, and they run artificial intelligence algorithms on top of those cameras. Those algorithms identify when someone is shoplifting, is stealing stuff from a shop, and automatically what they do is turning on the recording of the cameras, and they alert the security guards. And probably they unlock, they unleash the dogs and make them kill the people. I don't know. That's what I would do. But my point here is that if we have been successful into applying automation and artificial intelligence to the physical security space, there are literally no reason why we should not apply the same technologies to enterprise IT security and be extremely successful. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.